Hello. I am not much of a Jubilee enjoyer. I don't really watch it. But last night, I got home and my partner was watching this video. Who lies more? We fact-checked liberals versus conservatives. The basic setup here is that the liberals are debating the conservatives on some topic, and then when one of them makes a claim that somebody in the Family Feud side thinks is incorrect, they hit their buzzer and it goes to Jubilee's fact-checking team, which is off camera. And then they say whether or not the fact was right or not. I was not really watching. I was, I'm like a half listening to it as I'm doing other stuff. But, my partner and I both had issues with their fact-checking, and I'm a little more strapped for time this month than I thought I'd be. And so I'm like, what better lazy slop content can I do than react content? And so I am going to fact check their fact checkers. I cannot believe I forgot to say this when I was recording. Also, this video is an hour and 15 minutes long almost. I'm not going to fact check every single claim made in this video because the therapy has been working and I don't hate myself that much. I'm just going to fact check the claims that they have Jubilee fact check so I can fact check their fact checkers. So that you have some context for what's being debated. Here's the prompt.
Whose policies are better for quality of life and affordability? Liberals or conservatives?
You could say Medicare for all, but I just demonstrated how increasing public health care has increased the cost for American families by 100%.
What would you like fact-checked?
The debater specifically said that public investment is more expensive than the free market when it comes to overall national coverage. I specifically was waiting for an affirmative claim that had nothing to do with the Affordable Care Act.
You waited for me to say
a wrong statement, yes.
No, but I was...
that's really funny.
That's a valid fact check, so fact checkers, do your thing.
We will also see that what they consider to be a valid fact check and what I consider to be a valid fact check are not the same thing.
Well, Dominique, you said that public investment is more expensive than free market.
What the hell does that mean? More expensive for whom? They mean, because they were talking specifically about American families. This makes it sound like it's in general.
They said that was false. Public program administrative costs are lower than private insurance. Public programs run at about 2%, where private insurance costs are more expensive.
If you'll also notice, they don't provide a source. So let's try to find their source. This is from PolitiFact. They are fact-checking Bernie Sanders, who said the cost of administering Medicare is 2% compared to 12 to 18 for private insurance. And they are basically affirming that, yes, it is. Administrative costs are much cheaper for Medicare. I want to be clear here. I think Medicare for all is a good idea. I still think there's a lot of nuance between what the original person said, the person who challenged the claim with the fact check, and what Jubilee found. But all we got was yeah, it's right.
So if I live in New York City, and I'm paying a certain tax rate, what I'm getting in return for that is better education, right? So I'm getting taught.
I'd like to fact check her claim about education. New York does not have better education because of their taxes.
Z, you claim that New York City has better education standards than red states because of taxes.
Okay. What Jubilee decided to fact check is New York City has better education standards than red states because of taxes. Standards. That is not what either of them said. They said better education. This sentence is bonkers.
False. New York City ranks middle percentile in education, not a leader of the pack among states.
Even the statement they came back with is not standards, which is the thing they said they were fact checking. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Let's try to find something. Well, according to World Population Review, New York State has the highest public school ranking in the country. This one from Wallet Hub says New York is the 8th best state. Again, state. This city versus state thing is actually really difficult to work through. Okay. We have New York City public schools from US News and World Report. We have a couple of metrics that I feel make sense here. You know what? let's just look at high school graduation rate so we have something specific to focus on. National Center for Education Statistics is a .gov website, and this is saying that the average is 87%. If you just look at high school graduation rates, technically, New York is in the middle of the pack compared to all 50 states. And here's where we get to a little thing called subjectivity, because depending on what you're looking at, how in the world is Florida number 2 in education for U.S. News and World Report? Like, oh my God. There's so much nuance here. Okay, so this World Population Review uses graduation rates, standardized test scores, teacher qualifications, per pupil spending, teacher-to-student ratio, school safety indicators. The thing that this guy said, which was New York doesn't have better education because of their taxes, is like, that is a fully constructed argument. Like, again, I was able to pull high school graduation rates, and I was able to pull like random metrics from like these random places that are all like deciding what they want for their own arguments for what's better. But like, if you're trying to find that exact claim because of their taxes, you're going to end up citing like a massive essay that like lays that entire argument out, usually from a think tank. But at that point, it's not necessarily a fact check, it's a citation that you make like a little thing will pop up in the corner for your video essay that you're making. You know, I don't know if I'm making sense. This question made me go feral. I'm going to keep going before I lose my mind. They're also specifically talking about Mamdani getting $8 million from the state government to help try to balance New York City's budget.
If you make a deal with someone. There was a deal. So what concession did he give to the state government? Oh, so he didn't make a deal. He received free money from the state government. That's what happened. There was plenty of different articles on
New York
this.
Matt said that New York City, that Mamdani got free money from the government, and I want to fact check that.
The largest economic producer in the country, New York City, getting free money.
Yeah, I don't even think that's like a thing.
This is kind of just how government works.
So Matt, you claim that NYC received free money from the government.
To everyone's credit here, at least everybody is consistent this time.
That is false. New York City did not receive free money. It received previously collected tax revenue from the state government that came with restrictions and requirements, including matching funds.
To Jubilee's credit, I think this is a really well done one. Also to Jubilee's credit, the guy's original claim was he didn't make any concessions to the state government, and that is what he's using to define free money. And their fact check statement explicitly is like, no, there were restrictions on it. It was not just here, do whatever you want. This is from the local New York CBS station. The $8 billion isn't $8 billion in cash. Some of it is authorization. There's some state one-time money. There's a $500 million appropriation for the governor announced in her 30-day amendments, for example. There is some recurring funding, some areas where the city had been cut. That is now sort of being given back to the city, and that would be recurring. Jubilee did fine on this fact check, I think.
Look, right here we made this thing better, and it makes everything else tiny bit worse. And the problem with these antitrust laws is it always makes everything a little bit worse.
That's not true, and I know this because both of us are YIMBYs. I'm gonna give a specific example.
The claim that antitrust laws almost always make everything a little bit worse.
That's again, what is better or worse for who? That's a hard thing to fact check. Listen to me. I think antitrust laws are good. I think they are a net good. I do not want monopolies around. That is the conclusion of an essay. That is not a one-time fact-checkable claim that you would do in something like this. The claim itself has to go through somebody's lens, and it defeats the purpose of a fact check. In my opinion. I'm one guy.
Yeah,
That's so subjective. What do you?
To his point. That is so subjective. And again, I disagree with him. I think he's dumb, but he's correct. Like, that is a very subjective claim that you would back up with examples, and those examples would then be fact-checked.
Jake, you claimed that antitrust almost always makes everything a bit worse.
That was not my claim. Everything else.
Just the fact that, everybody is laughing. They all know this one's bullshit. Maybe this game should have more rules about the types of statements that can or cannot be fact-checked, because what the hell is that?
The fact checkers have a verdict, and they have said that that is false. There are 0 historical records reflecting this claim. So thank you, Jake.
I will Google it for giggles. So the first 2 actual results here are from, well, I at least know the Cato Institute is a right-wing think tank, but I'm not sure what the Stanford report is. But let's look at both of them. Just to humor this guy's opinion, right? Oh, this is literally just Stanford's website, .edu. Okay. Regulation often has unexpected consequences. This is true of antitrust as well. In our research that looked at the aftermath of the Microsoft antitrust settlement in the early 2000s, a case that is often referenced in the current antitrust action, this is in reference to like Google, we found the effects of the settlement to be a mixed bag. Regulating Microsoft did trigger a substantial increase in patent activity, especially among firms that had lower market shares before the regulatory intervention. That's what antitrust stuff is kind of supposed to do, encourage competition. So antitrust action did help technical invention. However, firms struggled to turn technical inventions into product innovations that the market would value, so we didn't really see the innovation benefits that the regulators probably were hoping for. I wouldn't call that making things worse. I would say that just is neutral. Personally, the real beneficiaries seem to have been the second and third place players just behind Microsoft in market share. They seem to have benefited most by becoming more efficient, not more innovative. To me, that's still promoting competition. I don't know. It's like that's it doing what it's supposed to do. Also, is efficiency a type of innovation? Am I crazy? What does that mean? I'm not digging into her whole research. I'm not doing all this. That's one take of how this guy would be like half right, maybe, if you want to be generous. And the other one's the Cato Institute. I'll read this really quick. This is just conservative word salad. This is nothing. Proper comparison of the marketplaces that will evolve if antitrust laws by punishing success eliminate incentives for new and improved products. That feels like a stretch to me. Somebody being like, we can't be too successful because they might try to do an antitrust on us. Like, that's not real. That's not real. No company's gonna do that. I'm sorry. Most of the things in this article are not downstream effects. They're just like, what if somebody does something bad with this law? Like, I do not agree with Jert Guy about his claim that antitrust legislation, whatever, is bad. I do agree with him that that probably should not have been a fact-checked thing. Or at least there should have been more of a discussion about it.
A Tax Cut and Jobs Act that Trump initiated, 81% of the corporate taxes went to stock buyback. So tax cuts aren't actually solving something like wage growth, which we want to enable.
At 85%. 81% of the tax cuts went to stock buybacks.
Corporate tax cuts. Center for Budget and Policy Priorities, I believe, is the organization.
Evan, you stated that 81% of corporate tax cuts from TCJA in 2017 went to stock buybacks. That is false.
Let's go.
81% of corporate cuts from the TCJA in 2017 went to stock buybacks is not what the research actually says. So stated that way, it is false. It's closer to 40 to 50%.
This is the kind of fact check that like we see on SciShow, right? It's like there's some kind of like, it is a very specific claim. You are linking it to a very specific data point, and someone is going in and being like, yes, that data point matches what this says. So I went to the specific source this guy mentioned, and I see how he got to where he did. So the tax cuts happened between 2017 and 2018, and the stock buybacks, 81% is nothing. It was $0.81 billion, or like about that. Like that is probably where the fact got screwed up in this guy's mind. But even then, the spirit of what he is saying is right, correct? And you can see that by the huge increase in stock buybacks. It's just the specific factoid that he said was wrong. That is the problem with this format. The way that the meta of this game works is don't say anything too specific, because the moment you say something too specific, somebody is going to buzz in because you're likely to be wrong. It's hard to remember numbers, it's hard to remember quotes, but also those are the types of things that like traditionally you fact check, right? Like this format's bad.
Which party is more bigoted and discriminatory, Republicans or Democrats?
Donald Trump, for instance, made it one of his first priorities when getting back in office to specifically tackle the trans issue.
What claim did you want fact-checked?
Trump targeting trans people.
Day one executive order. Day one executive order.
All right, Mason, you claim the Trump administration targeted trans people on day one, and they say it is true. The second Trump administration made transgender policy an explicit and prominent early priority. On day one, Trump signed an order to restore, quote, biological truth in federal policy, but ordered the DOJ to target supposed radical gender ideology.
I mean, this was a pretty straightforward, everything looks kosher here, but let me just do it. Here's the literal, okay, wow. This is whitehouse.gov. No, thank you. I'm not going to put my email into whitehouse.gov. Subscribe to I don't want to get notifications from whitehouse.gov. Oh, let me exit out of both of these spam pop-ups from literally a .gov website. Yeah, straight from the horse's mouth. The White House, January 20th, 2025. Defending women from gender ideology, extremism, and restoring biological truth to the federal government. There's only two gender, blah, 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 blah. This is the literal executive order. I'm gonna move on. Oh my God.
So there's a couple things that you have to go through before you're able to get authorized for medical gender-affirming care. Mm-hmm. The first one is excessive analysis between healthcare providers and parental consent. Some people
parental consent is one of the requirements for gender-affirming care.
You stated that parental consent is a requirement for gender-affirming care in California. That is true.
Thank you.
In the state of California, parents do need to provide informed consent to a doctor for a minor to begin receiving gender-affirming care.
This is from the California legislature's nonpartisan fiscal and policy advisor. For transgender children, decisions around which treatment to provide when to provide treatment are made jointly by the physician and parent of the child, generally following professionally recognized standards. Yay, okay.
A data set on this, that even black kids that come from the wealthiest families, right, still commit just almost the same amount of crime, or even more, for example, than, for example, white kids that come from like $30,000 median household income. Perfect, get that one.
That black kids from wealthy neighborhoods commit as much or if not more violent crime than kids from sub 30K households.
That are white.
That are white.
Original guy said families. This guy says neighborhoods. Again, we have to be consistent with what we're fact checking here. Maybe they're negotiating it more and they just cut it out, but like, I think that's important for the audience to see. Whatever. I'm just gonna keep going.
What is gonna happen, the number is that the highest decile of blacks commit slightly less crime than the lowest decile of whites.
Why did he say it like that? That felt really gross.
And that is false.
That's not false, but okay.
There is no data to directly support this claim. It is overly broad and is not backed by data.
Like, I am not out here saying that guy is correct. Because, like, that's a dumb claim. But we could not find anything. I don't know. This should be figure-outable based on data that we have. Maybe it's not. But, like, I'm going to look this up later. I'm going to look this specific claim up later and put it in here when I'm editing. Because this will take me maybe hours to figure out, at least a half hour. I don't have that much time right now to film, and neither did they. I'm not calling their fact checkers lazy. This is just, once again, like, not a great format for a show.
Yeah, we don't have time. I bet you it could take me 10 seconds to find the source. It's just too inflammatory for them.
Reddit.com.
Take him 10 seconds to find it. I'm gonna time myself. Actually, I'm gonna time myself of how long it takes me to put that together to find the data for that. So it took me about 43 minutes to fact check this. It was surprisingly difficult to find just like a data set for household income of people who commit crimes. At one point, I downloaded a spreadsheet of literally every response to a survey that the Fed does, and hypothetically, someone could answer our question with that spreadsheet. But if I were to do it, it would have required a literal statistics course. This question is also complicated by the fact that they were saying kids. So around 30 minutes in, I found a study that addressed juvenile crime, race, and income. It basically says that juvenile arrest rates go down the wealthier a county is at about the same amount, whether you control for race or not. The study has a few caveats though. One is that it's only for the state of Michigan. 2 is that it's looking at arrest rates per county and not like individual people. And 3 is that it's an undergrad paper. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad paper, to be clear. It just means that I wanted additional supporting evidence for, all those reasons. I was later able to find this other study. It was not specific to juvenile crime, but it says once you equalize for income based on labor, it results in a closer alignment in crime rates between Black and white populations. However, I did hit a paywall and I can't see much more detail than that. So yeah, I think this is enough information to show that this guy's original position is not directly supported by the information that we do have. But again, it took 43 minutes, and 43 minutes is too long to have to pause on a shoot day. Jubilee is probably filming like 3 other things in that studio after this one. I do really wish that Jubilee had given literally any detail about the research that they did do, though. It is currently 6-2. I'm gonna put on my evil Hollywood producer hat. If I had no scruples and I'm like, I want this to be good TV, I would be doing anything in my power to get the right a couple of points, especially with Jubilee's brand, because Jubilee their whole thing is we are the medium. We are the mediators. We create an open dialogue between the left and the right and people with differences. It behooves Jubilee to create false balance between the truth on either side. Even when reality does not necessarily reflect that. We will see an example soon. We'll see an example soon.
Let's talk about the American Medical Association. Let's talk about the American Psychiatric Association.
Yeah, these are politically minded organizations.
So they're not
I think they're wrong.
He said that the American Medical Association is a politically minded organization.
Well, politically minded, and maybe I should have said biased.
What it sounds like is politically motivated.
All right, Jake, you stated the American Medical Association is a politically minded organization. That is a true claim. Oh. The American Medical Association has a political action committee and engages in political advocacy, giving to both political sides of the aisle.
Right.
Wait, on both?
Oh my God.
On a technicality.
He did say political and not partisan. He won a technicality, but he did win.
This is not one of the ones that I caught last night. I do not have words. Okay. We all know what he meant. He meant to say that they have partisan leanings. These are liberal organizations. Whatever. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just baffled. God. Okay. Let me just double check if they have a PAC. AMPAC is the Bipartisan Political Action Committee of the American Medical Association. Again, this is the problem with this show, where the spirit of what he said, it would have been, they are partisan, they have a liberal leaning. But they went with politically minded and therefore it's yeah, they have a PAC, they're gonna donate to people, but it is nonpartisan / bipartisan. And even the guy said I got on a technicality, oh my God. The thing that audiences are gonna take away from this is that the American Medical Association is liberal leaning, and I am justified in thinking it's all bullshit. And oh my God, you can interpret words in many different ways. This feels like irresponsible communication to me. I feel icky. That just felt really irresponsible on Jubilee's part, more so than any of the other ones I've seen so far. But I'm also a science guy, so that would make sense why this one would hurt me a little more. And that's my bias.
It doesn't matter what you like or dislike. Freedom of speech is protecting freedom of speech that you hate.
Protect violent speech.
Yes. Nope. That freedom of speech is protecting freedom of speech that you hate. The First Amendment specifically references speech in reference to Congress shall not oblige. It's specifically in reference to how the government is involved in regulating other people's speech.
Those things are not mutually exclusive. It's regulating all speech, including speech that you hate. Okay, now I'm on fact checking right now. I'm just getting cranky.
So Z, you claim that freedom of speech is protecting speech that you hate. True. The First Amendment of the Constitution specifically protects freedom of speech, including opposing views.
Yep. Voltaire.
Oh, that's not even what it meant. No.
You have to be specific with the thing that you're fact checking, or it doesn't make sense to fact check it. And he didn't quite. I don't know what he was trying to say. I guess. But no, see, it seems no one did. Again, this is all like definitions. We can look at the text of the First Amendment, I guess. Here's the text of the First Amendment. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech. He just created a thing to be wrong about and then lost the point. Okay.
The final checkmate prompt is, whose policies better protect constitutional rights? Liberals or conservatives?
I've referenced the false balance thing a little bit already. At this point, it is 7-3. The closer the game is, the better it reflects on Jubilee. Please keep that in mind for this segment.
In El Salvador, with President Bukele, who is a dictator,
I love that Bukele, the president of El Salvador, is an explicit dictator.
I said dictator,
but
I didn't say explicit, yeah.
Yeah, you got
it.
It's fine. Let's not have bias.
I'm literally gonna walk out.
So there's...
You can't have editorializing from fact checkers.
You guys have to remain neutral.
Yeah,
so
your job is not to give your response.
What's true?
That he's a dictator?
So the fact checker left because she wasn't allowed to give a true rating for that.
In order to maintain the integrity of the show, you mean the potential for there to be a tie at the end? I'm sorry, okay.
Lame.
So fact checkers are just supposed to stay silent and not make reactions and just do their job.
Yeah.
Well, I think
TV.
that is good TV, and I think that's also more honest because a fact checker left unsaid. That's important. The audience when it wants to know the minds of the fact
I agree. I think it should be in the cut.
You claim the president of El Salvador is a dictator, and that is false. There's no legal classification of a dictator. He was elected, and El Salvador remains a democracy.
Okay. Let's unpack all of that. Once again, I'm going to put my evil Hollywood producer hat back on. I want this game to be as close as possible. Therefore, I'm going to encourage my fact checkers to look at this from any angle that we could to get it so that the losing side could get a point. What I need you to understand is that, like, legal classification of a dictator means nothing. Means nothing. Like, this is not ancient Rome where there was a provision in their laws for, if we need to enact emergency powers, here's this position called dictator, which is like what Julius Caesar did. This is the fact checkers / director producer going, the El Salvador government does not have a legal provision for dictator in their laws the way that they did in ancient Rome, and therefore this guy is not a dictator. Let's be a little bit more reasonable with our fact check. Okay. Well, if somebody asked you, is the president of El Salvador a dictator? What would you Google? President El Salvador dictator, right? Let's do that. What is that? There's all of these articles talking about how he called himself the coolest dictator in the world, meaning as he is a self-admitted dictator. Okay, but maybe we don't want to use that. Maybe we want to do, well, they're talking about legal classification of dictator. Let's say we're throwing away legal classification and we're going to, like a dictionary definition. Let's see what Merriam and Webster have to say. A person granted absolute emergency power, especially one appointed in the Senate. C, the Senate sense of ancient Rome, like we talked about with Julius Caesar. B, one holding complete autocratic control, a person with unlimited governmental power. C, one ruling in an absolute way, an often oppressive way. C, fascist dictators. Okay, autocratic control, fascist dictator, that situation. So let's look up his policies and how he operates. Here's a thing that I learned right now. El Salvador did at one point have a military dictatorship from 1931 to 1979. Limited political rights throughout and maintained its governance through rigged elections. This was a military coup. If Jubilee is like, well, they had this kind of dictator before, and so the current guy, because he was democratically elected, is not a dictator, that is an argument you can make. I don't think it's a good one, but also they did not say that. They said there's no legal classification for dictator. Anyway, still trying to find this guy's policies. I found an NYU master's thesis. Basically discusses whether this is some new thing. It's not democracy. It's not authoritarianism, dictator. It's both. Or is it a strategic adaptation of familiar authoritarian and democratic practices? I am not reading this 86-page thesis. To me, this reads as, you are not resting on adherence to democratic principles, therefore you would be autocratic? Which it means a dictator. This is from the Democratic Erosion Consortium, written by a student, okay. Here are some of the things he has done. He's removed horizontal checks on the executives, which works to generate systematic advantages for the incumbent himself, which you know is consolidating power, dictatorially, one may argue. A comparison to Viktor Orban, also very often called a dictator. There was cuts to legislative seats, which reinforced a supermajority so that the people in power could stay in power through artificially inflated means. Weakening of judicial power. Also, a lot of this sounds familiar in a way that I don't enjoy. I think that's enough. Obviously, this Jubilee fact check is in very bad faith, and this is why the model that fact checkers must remain silent is like dumb. It's a dumb way of doing this. There's a really good counterexample to how this works in Actually, the Dropout show. Actually is another show centered around pedantic corrections, so they naturally also employ fact checkers. And while the topics are a lot sillier, I think Actually's format has a leg up on this Jubilee show for a few reasons. One is that the fact checkers are a character that the audience sees. They openly interact with the contestants and the host. In early seasons, they started with their fact checkers off screen.
The play is not called the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Ooh.
The play is called The Rocky Horror Show.
We're going to have our fact checker looking at that, because that would make sense for it to be that.
Transvestite. Yeah.
Oh.
Wow.
Yep. Okay, that's not what we're going for, but I'll give it to you.
But part of the fun of Actually is being able to dig into weird nuances. And so they leaned into that and made a little fact check booth and put a camera in there.
Get me out of here. Just kidding.
Okay, now you gotta watch this whole long ass clip as an example.
Howard the Duck. Does Howard have that kind of Deadpool-esque fourth wall breaking in his...
He does in the movie.
Are you going to say that's a superhero?
Well, it's, the reason is that that's actually listed as a superpower in the Marvel encyclopedia. I'm just saying that there actually is, that they do list that as in the continuity of comics, fourth wall breaking is a superpower.
I would say that is an ability that someone might have. I would not call it a superpower.
If we want to be super specific about Howard the Duck, which I know we do, Howard the Duck has no superpowers per se. His duck-worldian physiology gives him abilities that are different than a human.
So it's not a superpower because everybody from this world can do what he does.
He's very normal for him.
Oh, and I suppose that Superman being exposed to the yellow sun of Earth, which gives him who has identical superpowers to every Kryptonian.
It's worth noting that some of the things as a result of his duck-worldian physiology make him weaker than a human.
Wow.
Well, hey, I can survive being exposed to kryptonite. There are weaknesses, there's pros and cons, you know?
Brennan, I have heard your arguments. I have found them wanting. I will not allow that breaking the fourth wall is a superpower. And Brennan, anything more to say to that?
Get in the comments.
I've been talking a lot about whether claims are easily fact-checkable data and statistics or like larger, more subjective claims that would need to be backed up with evidence. Actually handles that latter half by being clear that the final verdict is just one person's subjective call. And they get to that point through an open discussion, which is facilitated by an on-screen fact checker. The way Actually does it is a lot more transparent than the way that Jubilee does it, but I don't think Jubilee ever would do it the way that Actually does it, because leaning into the fact that some calls are subjective goes against their brand identity as the ultimate neutral middle ground. Also, thank you to Lepidopteric Peach and Adam Tompkins 0 on TikTok for suggesting these clips. I have problems with this show. Okay.
So I'm just saying, on your view, Republicans haven't done anything to protect the so-called constitutional right of life for fetuses. Well, not anything. I shouldn't say not anything.
I would like to fact check his claim that Republicans have not done anything to protect fetuses.
The constitutional right of life of a fetus.
Which doesn't
exist.
I'm gonna go ahead and say
they're saying yes.
You guys are right. That I know you probably meant to say that.
Oh God.
But I don't think
She doesn't think they said
She
that.
doesn't think they said that.
Is
She's
it
right there.
possible to rewind the tape?
Yes, it is possible to rewind the tape. They have like multiple cameras. They could pause a camera and go look at what he said because obviously the words. I'm losing my mind. I guarantee you, they've figured out there's a bias happening, and they're like, oh shit, we're gonna lose this game. They're gonna lose potential people that are watching. There's gonna be misinformation. It's gonna be bad. He literally did say constitutional right to life.
The so-called constitutional right of life for fetuses.
But let's just go.
The claim that Republicans have done nothing to protect the right of a fetus. That is false. There is a well-documented body of evidence of Republican policymakers acting to legally protect fetuses in multiple states and at the federal effort.
But I would love the fact checkers to explain what the right of a fetus is.
We need a fact checker for the fact checkers.
That's me. I am the fact checker for the fact checkers. I am going to Google constitutional right to life for a fetus. Roe v. Wade established that the Constitution does not recognize fetuses as persons under the 14th Amendment. And then that was overturned, obviously, but that does not then affirm that I'm not a legal scholar. So somebody correct me if I'm wrong. I am taking that to mean that, like, just because something gets overturned, it doesn't then mean the opposite of the thing is true. It doesn't mean actually that means they do have a constitutional right to life, which because the thing the guy originally said was.
So I'm just saying, on your view, Republicans haven't done anything to protect the so-called constitutional right of life for fetuses.
Oh God, I think it's even worse than that. Like, I think this guy was trying to clarify an earlier point that the other guy made.
On your view.
Something that's really important to me is abortion, and I think the unborn does have a constitutional right, properly interpreted, to a right to life. And currently, we do not protect that in the United States.
If that's the case, I don't think this should have been fact-checkable. Again, this feels like something that's hard to fact-check and is more of like a question for a legal scholar.
Lack of due process. So a lot of ICE agents that are going into homes without a search warrant, which is a violation of the Fourth Amendment, regardless of whether or not someone is a citizen. How are they supposed to know the citizenship status of people that they're breaking into? That's what these judges have ruled as lack of due process and lack of probable cause.
Sure.
Because if you don't know the citizenship status and you're going off of racial profiling or you're going off of hearsay, that is not a justified justification or a rational justification for them to be deporting those people.
Well, I certainly believe that.
I see that you pushed your button, very unsure about it.
That ICE is violating due process by using metrics such as someone's ethnicity as a marker for.
That wasn't the claim. ICE violating people's due process by not having probable cause or even knowing the citizenship status of certain homes that they enter is a violation. That's what judges have had. Before you tell Dominique what she's supposed to say, that is what I said.
Did you or did you not, though, say that...
Wait, is this Dominique's fact check or is this
they needed warrants?
Real quick, whose fact check is it?
You said that ICE violated due process by not knowing citizenship status of people before detainment or entering their homes.
That's a prerequisite.
This is true. This claim is largely accurate and well supported by numerous court rulings.
I cannot believe that right there. They don't need search warrants.
They can't enter your home without a judicial warrant from a judge, not an ICE warrant. An ICE warrant is different and does not hold the same legal weight as a judicial warrant. They can't do that, and I believe they have done that. Yeah, and they have a policy to do that. Like, they do it. The way that Jubilee phrased this is weird. Not knowing citizenship status of people before detainment or entering their homes. The specific wording of not knowing citizenship status is it's like hard for me to fact check for some reason. Like, I can't. Maybe I'm just dumb. I should have just Googled with probable cause. ICE violates Fourth Amendment when it detains people without probable cause. Court rules. This was back in 2020. This isn't even the most recent surge of crap that's been happening. Detainers are often issued based on information contained in ICE or the government agency databases. These databases are notorious for their frequent errors. Okay. This wasn't as hard as I thought. I'm just dumb. I didn't Google the right thing. I actually had to go back and fact check myself on this one. So the thing the guy said in the debate was
lack of due process. So a lot of ICE agents that are going into homes without a search warrant, which is a violation of the Fourth Amendment, regardless of whether or not someone is a citizen.
And that is a fully correct statement. But I think Jubilee's fact check screwed up here. They said
ICE violated due process by not knowing citizenship status of people before detainment or entering their home.
Well, okay, maybe it's like kind of correct because it's still written in past tense. There was a Supreme Court ruling last year that said ICE can use what effectively amounts to racial profiling of Hispanic people to stop, question, or detain them, meaning they don't have to know that person's citizenship status. ICE is still not allowed to enter people's homes without a judicial warrant, though, which as far as I can tell would mean ICE does have to know a person's citizenship status for that to happen. So I actually think Jubilee needed to remove these two words for clarity's sake. And this one also feels irresponsible to not go into detail about. Like, not understanding this nuance might actually put people in danger or something? I don't know.
So how do the Republicans protect free speech or gun laws better?
I would say like in Florida, for example, there's less regulations, so you have constitutional carry. You don't have to go through a lot of red tape. So I would say.
Are you saying that blue states don't have constitutional carry?
Well, California, I don't believe has constitutional open.
Please let us know which claim you want to be fact-checked.
Specifically that California does not have constitutional carry.
Dominique, you claim that California does not have constitutional carry laws, and that is true. California residents are required to have a permit to carry any firearm within state limits.
Constitutional carry, also called permitless carry, unrestricted carry, or Vermont carry, refers to legal public carrying of a handgun, either openly or concealed without a license or permit. As of 2021, Montana, my state, is a constitutional carry state, and it varies by state to state. For example, for us, it means that you can, if you are a law-abiding Montana gun owner, you can carry a concealed firearm for self-defense without written authorization from the government. The reason the phrase constitutional is being used is because the state is affirming your right to carry a firearm, and they are interpreting the Constitution saying that as like absolutely zero restrictions. California is not a constitutional carry state. They have like a lot of gun laws, actually. It gets kind of weird with the guns that they're like allowed to sell. I think by this guy saying, I want to fact check that California does not have constitutional carry, he thought he was trying to say that the constitutional right to bear a firearm at all does not apply in California somehow. But that's because the term constitutional carry is a little bit confusing. I also had to Google it. I was like, wait a second, is this the same thing as permitless carry? Yes, it's the same thing as permitless carry. And I know a little bit about guns, so I think this application of fact-checking was like pretty good. I just wish there had been a discussion about that because we don't really get a definition of what constitutional carry is here. And people aren't learning, and this could have been an opportunity for learning. So I did not realize there was another round. So the conservatives are still in it, and they're only still in it because of the BS fact-checking that happened during the last round.
All right, liberals, have you chosen your prompt?
Our prompt is, whose presidential record is better, Joseph R. Biden or Donald Trump?
I'll collect your wages now. Thank you. Thank you.
Because there's a wager.
All right, we're going
that's
to start
the only
with
way
Matt.
that the other side can win is if there's a wager. It's not actually what's the truth. I'm cranky. My blood pressure from watching this is so high. The context for this one is that they are talking about the war in Iran and whether Iran's missiles have successfully been depleted over the course of the war.
Depletion of the missile stockpile.
How much of the missile?
I'm not going to put a number on it.
Yeah, exactly. So if one missile was depleted, is that considered a depletion?
So can I respond?
If one missile was depleted,
can I respond?
How many? Give me an estimate. Give me a percentage estimate.
If I give you a percentage, will you estimate it? Estimates over 50%.
Okay.
Fact check it.
What claim would you like to fact check?
U.S. classified intel reports, as reported by the New York Times,
Just say what you're saying.
Suggest that 70%
What's
of
the
Iran's
claim, though?
My claim was that Iran's missile stock.
Yeah, my guy should not be trying to out here quoting specific percentages since he was wrong about the other percentage thing he said before. But also, it's not his turn, so whatever.
Iran's missile stockpile has been depleted
by 50%.
Hold on. By more, I specifically said more than 50%.
Good, okay.
Boom, that's it.
Okay, mine is that they maintain 70% of their missile stockpile as reported by the New York Times, according to a classified report.
Okay, we'll see.
Our fact checkers have checked, and they've come to a verdict. And that is a false claim. Reports state Iran's missile stockpile has decreased by at best 50% since the start of the war. Other estimates put it much lower.
Let's find it. Okay, so a key thing here is I don't know when this was filmed, right? Oh no, this had to have been filmed after May 26th, because that was when the New York Mamdani $8 billion thing happened. So after that, Oh, wow. Okay, so fun thing here is the AI at the top is saying that most of them's gone, and then the AI down on this little fold-out tab is saying they maintain 50 to 70% of its pre-war arsenal. This was published on April 21st. Iran may still have access to up to 70% of its pre-war ballistic missile arsenal, and that is technically from Times of Israel. No offense, but I would like at least a United States or like BBC or something to report on this as well. I mean, apparently the guy thought they had gotten rid of most of them because there were reports in March that most of their missiles were depleted. The guy making the claim had heard something that was considered to be true at some point. It's just our information gets updated as we learn new things. Let me try to find that New York Times one that the other guy said existed. U.S. intelligence shows Iran retained substantial missile capabilities. And I'm hitting a paywall. Well, most of the news places reporting on this appear to be publications from the Middle East. There's stuff from like March that's like, most of the missiles are gone. And there's stuff from like May that's like, actually, most of the missiles are still there. They do still have them, including probably this New York Times article that the guy specifically mentioned that I'm not going to pay for that. I believe that was the last fact check here.
Since the Liberals won, the final score is now 16-3. So congratulations to the Liberals.
A wager doesn't even make sense in this game. This is bad game design. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this video of mine. I am sweaty and tired. Also, if this is the second video of mine that you've seen, I would really appreciate it if you would subscribe. If it's your first video of mine, I'm not gonna make you commit yet. Go ahead and watch another one of mine before you decide. My goal is to make one video every month in the year of 2026, and so if it is September and I have not posted a video between now and the time that you're watching this, you have to yell at me. Thank you, goodbye.